Hey everybody, Paul Craig Roberts back with us once again with more interesting news, interesting political developments. Now, Paul, before we get to the Comey indictment, which were very significant for many reasons and insignificant in other ways, the way it may actually end up. But before we get to that, the FBI is now admitting that it had, 274 agents at the Capitol during the so-called insurrection, correct?
Correct.
And what were they doing there?
Yeah. Well, I think it's obvious from the videos they were there to foment violence.
Not to prevent a riot, but to start a riot, in other words, right?
Well, to create a scene that the horror media, the entire American media is a collection of horrors, as far as I'm concerned, that they could then present as a threat to the nation. Because what the Democrats had to do at that particular time, because of the overwhelming evidence that the 2020 election had been stolen, and it was set up that there was about to be presented to the Congress the evidence of the stolen election. They didn't want that to happen at that meeting that was about to take place in Washington. And so they orchestrated an event to shift all the attention away from the facts of the stolen election to an insurrection that Trump had led in order that he could illegitimately hold on to power. And it worked for a while.
Well, up until now, they didn't admit that they had their agents in the crowd. I mean, there was a lot of,
Yeah, oh no, I think the FBI Director Comey and I think Ray both, oh, we didn't have any agency. But you see, once you see that this came out because the Select Committee on investigating this got the admission that there were 274 agents. Sometimes they say 275. What does it matter? Almost 300 FBI agents were at the Capitol, not back at the Washington Monument, where the vast majority of the people protesting the stolen election were listening to Trump. The ones at the Capitol, there weren't very many of them. In fact, there may have been as many FBI agents as protesters there. Well, it was a clever thing the way they played it.
yeah.
And they didn't succeed in getting the violence they wanted.
Mhm.
The videos that have come out, many of them, and I've watched a lot of them, and it shows that the police or the FBI agents, whoever was trying to create a violent response, was not being successful.
Yeah.
And I think in desperation, they had the black policeman shoot Ashley Babbitt from the rear, shoot her in the head from the rear, in order to maybe produce a reaction that would look like violence. But when the House committee, sometime back, released all the videos, it showed the police opening the doors to the Capitol and escorting the so-called insurrectionists peacefully and quietly through the Capitol.
Yeah. In fact, those who follow my podcast may have seen a video
Yeah.
I did a few months ago with somebody from Scranton who was there and who went through the Capitol after being ushered in. The doors are open, peacefully marched through, and he was jailed for over a year.
Yeah.
And he tells the other side of the story, which the mainstream media hasn't been telling. It was most of those people, it was like they were tourists, went into the Capitol and they were looking around peacefully and marching out the other way. But of course, the spin was entirely different. So anyway, that's on my podcast from a few months ago. But
Yeah. Well,
also,
all the videos show there was no insurrection whatsoever.
yeah.
But the media still insists that there was. When you see what happens to a country when the media is just a collection of excrement, lying scum, people who lie for money. What kind of country can you have when you have a media like that?
Yeah.
It's you know it's deplorable. I don't I really think that the media should simply be abolished because they're nothing but a lie machine. That's all. See, all the media, they constitute a lie machine.
Yeah.
It's why are they tolerated? And I can't imagine people, Americans, stupid enough to sit there and be brainwashed by these lies. I just can't imagine it.
Well, I mean, don't forget, other than Fox News, which has its own slant, but at least they cover the stories that the others won't if it reflects favorably.
Sometimes they do.
Sometimes, yeah. But other than that, I mean, it's a constant barrage of propaganda, and people, they don't know any better. Although, you think by now they'd wise up just by putting
You
things.
would,
But
yeah.
it's such a flood of propaganda. It's hard for a lot of people who don't pay that much attention, either don't have the interest or don't have the time, and so they just accept what comes to them. And don't forget, it started with the tyranny of the printed word with the press. And that was a phrase, how people just accepted it because it was in print. And now because it's in the airwaves, people tend to accept it as official. So, that's a constant effect on the population.
Yeah. It's well, I don't know how we'll survive all these lies. What it basically means is we'll never find out the truth about anything. And now we're back to Comey.
Yeah, getting back to Comey now, he's been indicted. How significant is that? And will that fizzle out either intentionally or unintentionally? And where do we end up? And are there more indictments to come?
Here's here's my take on it, Larry. Um, what Comey did was high treason. It was he organized and participated in an attempted coup against the President of the United States by describing by presenting his election as president as a plot between Trump and a foreign enemy, Russia, Putin. And the whole Russiagate enterprise was to brand Trump as a foreign agent elected by Putin by interfering in the election. So here we have what was essentially a coup by the United States Department of Justice under Merrick Garland. That's who Comey reported to.
The Attorney General, yeah.
uh, to destroy the president who won the election because he wasn't acceptable to the ruling establishment. So this is a serious crime. It carries treason carries the death penalty. So why are they charging Comey with perjury, which is a 5-year prison sentence?
Why? Why?
Why? It shows you how the ruling establishment protects itself and its servants. Now,
Well, I mean, even Trump's going to allow that.
well, you know what Bondi said some time ago? She said, there's no one in the Justice Department who isn't a partisan Democrat.
Yeah.
I haven't got a single attorney I can rely on, to be honest.
Yeah.
So you see, this is what happened from decades of Republican insouciance, paying no attention, having no willingness to fight. The entire federal bureaucracy is loaded up with the far left. So how is Bondi going to sick, far left Department of Justice attorneys or prosecutors on Democrats. They're not going to do it. She hasn't got any soldiers. There are no troops. The fact that the commanders are for Trump, but the troops aren't. So,
Well,
uh,
Trump fired the partisan who was in there, the alleged partisan, and put in a woman who is favorable to him to prosecute the case. So will she do it properly?
yeah, but the attorney general, she can't prosecute all these cases herself. To prosecute a case takes a huge amount of people power.
No,
And
I
I
mean,
love to say
I mean a
men.
U.S. attorney, not Bondi. He 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 fired one of the U.S. attorneys that would have been prosecuting the case under Bondi, and put in somebody who was a personal favorite of his, a woman.
Still, but he's even this prosecutor is dependent on the Justice Department lawyers.
Yeah, yeah,
And people need to understand that the government is not in Trump's hands.
good point.
Just because you appoint the top people, but the thousands, the millions actually in the federal government of people, they're not Trump people. And then they're far left ideologues out to destroy us. That's what they are.
Yeah,
And not only Bondi said this, but Tulsi Gabbard and the woman at Homeland Security, they've all said this. You know, the woman from one of the Carolinas, what I forget
yeah.
what position, not the Carolinas, the Dakotas. The woman who was governor of one of the Dakotas, she has some security position. They've all said, hey, these people aren't on our side.
Yeah, and
So
Trump is getting a lot of criticism for firing a lot of people in these agencies.
he didn't fire enough.
He didn't fire enough, right?
Yeah, he didn't fire enough. In fact, the mistake, they should have picked some and held them accountable, prosecuted them, and sent them to prison.
Yeah.
And then that might have forced the remaining multitudes to cooperate with the government. But when you have a bureaucracy that will not cooperate with the elected officials, what are the elected officials going to do? You know, this is so.
Well, also,
Yes, but look, the question is, it wasn't just Comey. It was James Brennan who accused Trump of being a traitor to the nation. It was Hillary, Obama, Biden, Merrick Garland. Why aren't they indicted?
yeah.
It's almost like they drew straws and decided, and James Comey lost. So he has to take the fall. That will get rid of the whole thing, and he'll get 5 years for perjury. And as soon as the Democrats get back in, they'll pardon him.
All right. So Brennan, Garland, Hillary, Obama, Biden, they probably will not be indicted. It's going to stop right where it is. It's going to stop with
Well,
the,
I can't know that, but I suspect that.
yeah.
Uh, it's, if they were going to be indicted, they already would have been. The evidence is clear. Look, Russiagate was a hoax. It was a hoax designed to destroy a sitting president.
Yeah.
This is this is an act of high treason. No one is being prosecuted for treason. Comey's prosecuting for perjury, lying to Congress. Well, this is a minor crime compared to what he actually did. So, yeah, I think, and we don't know that he'll even be convicted. I mean, all they need is one black on the jury to be told that, this Comey stood up for you black people. He was on your side and blah, blah, blah. And Comey will get off. That's all it takes. And or some stupid white liberal woman.
Yeah.
The same effect. Oh, this is revenge of the evil Trump on Comey.
Right.
That's what any white liberal woman would say. And so if they get a white liberal woman on there, Comey will not be convicted.
Yeah.
So it's you know, to hold the establishment accountable, it takes far more determination and violence than Trump and his supporters have.
Yeah. It's you've said all along that you don't know if Trump could really do what he wants to do in terms of turning things around, reforming things, because, as you say, sprinkled, not sprinkled, but infused throughout the government, all these agencies, they're all working against him to this day. So it's up in the air how much he's really going to be able to accomplish.
Yeah, you can see this everywhere in this administration. If you look at all the constraints on Robert Kennedy as Secretary of Health.
Oh, that conspiracy nutcase, right? Everything.
Well, everything needs to be doing
Yeah,
is a knockdown, drag out fight. He's had to abandon many of the things that are desperately needed.
yeah.
It's simply because the establishment's too powerful.
Even though the drug companies fund these groups that study the effects or the ill effects of these drugs, even though they're tied in with the drug companies, their findings are objective.
Yeah.
According-
Right. Yeah. Well, I think I've reported before on your program that the editors of the two most important medical journals, the Lancet in England and the New England Journal of Medicine, both said after they resigned, they had zero confidence in the articles that they published because 70% of them were written with big pharma research grant money.
Those are supposed to be the Bibles of medicine, of medical research. Yeah,
But it's all apologetics for
yeah,
big pharma,
yeah.
attacks on known helpful supplements that aren't big pharma, and vindication of vaccines and COVID-19 vaccine. I mean, that's, you know, if you go around these pharmacies, they still have you can get your COVID-19 vax here.
Yeah.
Can you imagine anybody stupid enough to still do this? But they still do. And it's not, well, the vaccine that the English developed, the COVID vaccine the English developed, that company had the sense to take it off the market. They simply said, nope, it's not available. But Pfizer has been fighting and the others here to keep it recommended. And
And according to law that they passed when they introduced that vaccine, they cannot be sued, no matter what its effects are.
yeah, and to keep it like that, they still issue the vaccine only under the emergency order. Later it got approved, but they have issued no vaccine under the approved label because that exposes them to the lawsuits.
Yeah.
It's only the emergency authorization that protects them. So they only issue the vaccine, even today, under the emergency.
Quite clever. Actually, the only way to avoid the vaccine when they were mandating them was to declare yourself an illegal alien. They didn't have to be vaccinated when they intruded across the border.
Yeah.
So, and so it goes. All right, Paul, we're going to wrap this segment up. And our next segment, guys, stay tuned out there. We're going to be talking about the increasing loudness of the war drums. Now, Trump has said that NATO should shoot down Russian planes that intrude on their airspace, even though NATO has been intruding on Russian airspace. And the Russian ministers are saying we're getting closer and closer to war. So that's our next segment with Paul. Stay tuned. We'll have that on my website soon. Paul Craig Roberts, thanks for being with us.
Certainly, Larry.